Fun High School, and today I wanted to be showing you guys a little bit about exhibition drill. I'm going to be talking about military stance, how you make your routine sharper, how the overall feeling and flow of your routine should work, and basically just how to score better points on your routine. We follow all of my advice, and maybe I'll add some more after I create this video, but if you follow all of my advice, I promise you that your routine will increasingly get a better score. So, the stances that you want to be standing at, you will always want to be standing at a military position, and sometimes this can be modified. I've seen people not get points taken off for having a stance with their feet shoulder width apart. So what I mean is when they're drilling and they go for a large throw, they'll move their feet a little further apart. So they'll be drilling, just doing normal stuff, and if they go for a large throw, they'll move their feet apart, throw it, and come back, whatever. But anyway, yeah, that's the military stances. You want to make sure that your feet are 45 degrees apart, heels are together, blah blah blah, your head and eyes are straight forward. If you are not using an arm, it needs to be pinned to your side at a military position of attention. What I mean by that is if you are doing something like a rising sun, and this isn't even a rising sun, but gets the point across. Once you're finished with a hand's not on the rifle, it goes to your side. And that's just to keep the sharpness of your routine up, so that you're not just like sitting here with arms that you don't know what to do with, and you're just like waiting for the rifle to come back around, you know. Or if you're doing one-handed, so you don't have a straight arm, it's just like trying to keep your balance up, or what have you. So speaking of balance, we're going to talk about the extremes of your rifle. Here's an extreme right here, this top half. I have mine marked in tape. You don't have to have your rifle tape. It helps a lot though, because it makes your rifle more aerodynamic, and this is better for if you're throwing high throws, power throws such as quads or pentuples or whatever. You want to make sure that your hands are pretty much always in this this center portion. You want to make sure that your hands when you're spinning are pretty much anywhere from here to here is where you want your hands. I will always grab my spins like this normally, and they'll be here, whatever. And this is just because I have more control over the rifle when I grab it. I want one hand above the balance point and one hand below it. This is my balance point marked in white tape. This is one extreme section marked in white tape. There's another extreme section. So I can bank that if I catch on those extremes, it will always be a very sharp catch. It will always be 100% sharp. The rifle just stops immediately. And that's something that you really want in your routine. You want very sharp movements. You want to make sure that when you land stuff, it's very sharp, because that gives you a lot of extra points. It looks really nice. If you're not sharp, then you need to be really flowy. There's pretty much two types of drillers. There's sharp power drillers, and there's flowy technical drillers. And I'm more of the sharp power driller. As you can tell, I'm just throwing all these high throws and catching them really sharp. And the people that are flowy, they'll like be spinning it around their head and whipping it into other stuff, and then the rifle just never stops moving, so they don't really have to worry about the sharpness of their routine, which is still looks sharp because they don't have to worry about that factor. So yeah, your feet are always together, your heels are together, your feet are 45 degrees apart, sorry, and yeah, your head and eyes are always straight forward. But an exception of when you're throwing a high throw, and I count high throws as anything over 2. That is personal preference. Maybe at this point, anything over 3. I might not look at 3. But no, you want to make sure that your head knives are straight forward, and if they're not, they need to be displaced for only a little bit. What I'm saying is, if you're going for, we're going to do double exit rising suns. We're going to go for that, and if you need to look at it, you need to only look at it for a split second, so none of this prolonged exposure or premature exposure. So when you go for the throw, it shouldn't look like this. You're looking at it too early. See? But instead of when I throw mine, it's just up and back down. As soon as I catch it, even before I catch it, I'm already looking back, square with my target, position of attention. You want to stick away from things that delineate your heels from being anything but together. So what I mean is these super spinny moves, stuff like that. I have a move that I do it sometimes because it's a little flashy. It's just a fire knife, and what I'll do is I'll step out and I'll just let the rifle carry me with the fire knife. And people like seeing that, but I don't use it in competition because it will get you points knocked off because it's not sharp, it's not a military appropriate stance. And what I mean by appropriate, I mean everything has to be sharp. This is almost exactly like precision in the fact that everything needs to be there in one fluid movement. What I mean by that is in precision, you don't want to drag stuff around and put it on your shoulder or whatever. It needs to look exactly like it's in the book. And one frame your hands here, and the other frame your hands here, and the other frame your hands here, and then the other frame your hands here. Like, that's how precise this needs to be. Your hand. The difference between precision and exhibition for me is the way that I grab my rifle, the way that I hold it, control it, and just move it in general. With precision, I'll do a lot more of this flashy flagging and stuff like that. And yeah, so you don't want it to look like this, where you're, you want it to be sharp. So when you go for it, it's just one fluid motion and one snappy, sharp motion, and you're there. You've stopped it. You've done your spin. You've stopped the rifle. The trick is over. That's really what it needs to be. Alright, so I already talked about the balance points on your rifle. I already talked about what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't look at your spins. I've seen a lot of people, they'll be doing something as easy as a wrist breaker. I don't want to kill my cat, so I'm going to do this from a side profile. And they'll look to the side like this. I almost killed him. They'll look to the side, and their body will be facing to this side. Their feet are still facing this side, so that's not a correct military position. With the wrist breaker, your feet really don't need to, or your body doesn't need to move. You can just go at it like this, and then you go. Alright? You can be always looking forward, make sure that your shoulders are square to your target, and your shoulders are rolled back. Talk with your chest, keep your chest out at the military position of attention at all times. Now, I used to have a really bad habit of looking at these. When I would look at my hands, you don't want to do that. Keep your head nice straight forward. Just look straight up. At the judges, at whatever, the wall, it doesn't matter. But you just want to keep your composure and make sure that you're always looking straight forward. Right? So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. So I hope that your routine gets better, and yeah, just keep working on stuff. Make sure that you keep your endurance up. You don't want to be in a routine getting tired doing this, and the next thing you know, your form starts getting trash, your hands start moving, you start stepping out, you know? So just make sure that you practice. I would say if you can spin one-handed for 15 seconds in a routine, you should be able to do it for 45 seconds in practice. Just do this for as long as you can, and that's good practice for the routine, because during the routine you're not going to get tired. You want your routine to be your best set of skills. You want to make sure that you don't mess up. You don't want to have your routine be your most flashiest set of skills. Like if you just learn how to do neck clips, a dual rifle spin where you have a second rifle and you're spinning 2 rifles at a time. If you just learned that last week, you shouldn't be putting it in your routine. You're going to lose points because you're going to be messing up on form. You're going to be forgetting a lot of these simple things. If all you know how to do is single spin, and you go out there and you do this perfectly fine, you can't get any points marked off because you did it perfectly fine. And you might not compete because your competitors have this degree of difficulty that is far exceeding yours, but at least you're not getting points marked off because your form is wrong and you look like you don't know what you're doing out there. So just keep practicing, make sure that you look like you know what you're doing, and